The island is now experiencing the effects of a weather system, and we urge you to practice safety. If you are living in a flood-prone or low-lying area, please seek out an emergency shelter in your area. Visit jis.gov.jm for more updates as we monitor this weather system. Hi there. Thanks for joining us for another edition of Jamaica Magazine. We continue our program with a word of advice, followed by the news.
Hurricanes can strike at any time. In the event of one, be prepared to act quickly. If a hurricane watch or warning has been issued, review your home disaster response plan. Map out likely routes to evacuate if your home is at risk and confirm with relatives or friends you plan to stay with. Also, confirm the location of the nearest shelter. Check your emergency supplies and restock if necessary. Remember, disasters do happen, so be prepared.
The Senate on Friday passed the new Firearms Prohibition, Restriction and Regulation Act 2022 with 17 amendments. The legislation establishes a clear distinction between firearms that are prohibited or unregulated and firearms that are duly authorized or registered. The bill also outlines, among other things, objectives that speak to establishing a framework that prohibits firearms and ammunition that are illicitly traded. The framework will also regard the possession of those prohibited firearms and ammunition as the foundation on which other heinous and violent crimes are committed. Closing the debate, Minister without portfolio in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, Senator Matthew Samuda, said the bill will issue punishment in proportion to the crime.
For those who have been caught, the penalty did not match the crime, and this bill deals with that issue.
He also noted that the legislation and its amendments address the strengthening of the operational issues, such as those made to Clause 101, which speaks to trial, punishment, proof, and records. In addition, under the new legislation, the Firearm Licensing Authority, FLA, will be established as a body corporate. The legislation will go back to the House of Representatives for its approval. The Jamaica Constabulary Force, JCF, says investigation is ongoing into a major drug seizure on Friday at the Ian Fleming International Airport in St. Mary. Cocaine weighing approximately 1,105 pounds and valued at over $25 million is believed to have been destined for Canada before it was intercepted. The operation was a joint effort between the JCF's Narcotics Division, the Counterterrorism and Organized Crime Investigations Branch, CTOC, along with law enforcement agents from the United States of America. Meanwhile, the significant dent in drug smuggling has been credited to the launch of Operation Relentless 2, which also took place on Friday. The initiative is a partnership with the Jamaica Defense Force, JDF, which targets police divisions with high levels of violent crimes. It also targets criminal gangs and gangsters who are involved in violent crimes or other aspects of the illicit gun trade. In addition, associated lottery scamming and narcotics activities which fund these guns are also being focused on. Police Commissioner Major General Anthony Anderson says a series of joint planning activities with the JDF, as well as plans developed at the JCF High Command, area and divisional command levels, will be executed under Operation Relentless 2. He says manpower and mobility support is being allocated to the divisions of focus to resource the planned operations. The public can play their part by calling the JCF tip line at 811, Police Emergency at 119, or Crime Stop at 311. Jamaica is reiterating its call for a comprehensive, targeted approach to give small island developing states, SIDs, access to development financing. Prime Minister Andrew Holness echoed the plea as he delivered the island's address to the 77th session of the United Nations General Assembly, UNGA. Mr. Holness said despite Jamaica's efforts to drive down debt while building fiscal buffers and mainstreaming resilience, the country would still be forced to borrow to recover from economic shocks brought on by natural disasters. The resulting effects would see the island's debt increasing with no guarantee that another climatic event might soon wipe out all the gains that have been made. The Prime Minister therefore urged the global financial architecture to incorporate vulnerability as the basis for access to financing. Without this acknowledgement, Mr. Holness says, SIDs and some middle-income countries will continue to struggle to meet the Sustainable Development Goals.
We fully support the work of the high-level panel developing the Multidimensional Vulnerability Index. We eagerly anticipate an era of truly equitable access to concessional financing and other funding support, which will enable us to invest in resilient infrastructure and create fiscal buffers so that we can withstand and recover quickly from the next economic, health, or climate shock with little borrowing.
In the meantime, Prime Minister Holness is urging world leaders to honor their commitments to the Paris Agreement on climate change.
We call on all countries to meet their commitments and contributions to climate targets. And we call on the developed world to increase their commitments and ambitions in climate financing, particularly for adaptation and loss and damage.
The Conference of Parties to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, more commonly known as COP27, will be held in Egypt between November 6 and 18. The agreement calls for an environmental pact which will limit greenhouse gas emissions, which has been known to change weather patterns across the globe. Prime Minister Holness said climate change is an immediate existential threat to Jamaica, noting that a single climate event could wipe out 100% of the island's economy in a few hours. Jamaicans can expect moderate to heavy rainfall across several sections of the island until Tuesday. The inclement weather is due to the outer bands of Hurricane Ian, which passed off the coast of Negril Point in Westmoreland earlier today. Local weather conditions have been impacted by the system since Saturday. A flash flood warning is now in effect for 10 of the island's 14 parishes, with flooding and landslides being experienced in sections of the island. Several schools have been ordered closed, and the National Works Agency has been clearing blocked roads in some parishes. And finally, the Ministry of Health and Wellness is advising persons of safety measures to be taken in light of the inclement weather. Food items should not be stored with chemicals such as kerosene, bleach, detergents, or insect sprays. Water should be stored in a clean container and covered tightly to prevent mosquito breeding. In addition, persons with chronic illnesses are reminded to take their medication with them in the event that they have to go to a place of shelter. Plus, pregnant women who are within 1 month of their delivery dates should relocate to a place that is in close proximity to a hospital or delivery center. And that's it for JIS News Today. I'm Stephen McHugh. Thanks for watching.
This is We're committed to reducing the impact of disasters occurring in Jamaica. We're ever ready to assist you before, during, and after a disaster. But everybody have a role to play, so make we work together and follow the plan. Whether rich or poor or where you come from, hurricanes affect everyone, so be prepared. Prevention is better than cure. Be prepared. Listen to ADPEM. A message from the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness led a Jamaican delegation to the 77th session of the United Nations General Assembly held in New York recently. During his working visit, the Prime Minister addressed the 193-member grouping. Catch excerpts of his presentation in this next feature.
Mr. President, several countries in Latin America and the Caribbean are facing an epidemic of crime and violence. Since the pandemic and the disruption in education, challenges with mental health are being increasingly expressed in violent ways. The propensity to resolve conflict or cope with social and mental stresses through violence requires a public health response. And Jamaica has not only engaged in global initiatives such as the Partnership to End Violence Against Children, but we have recently empaneled a National Commission on the Prevention of Violence to advise the government on building out an articulated public health and social service response. However, the situation is exponentially complicated and exacerbated by the influx of illegal and unregistered small arms into our country. From organized transnational criminal enterprises to street-level gangs to the misguided youth in the inner city, the availability of guns is driving an ever-increasing homicide rate. In the same way that a war on drugs is being prosecuted, in which we have been faithful partners in policing what comes through our waters or leaves our shores, there now must be a war on guns. Jamaica does not manufacture guns, but our population suffers from the effects of widely available guns. The countries that manufacture weapons that are available to the public must implement stronger measures to ensure that those weapons do not end up on the streets and in the hands of people for whom they were not intended. In the same way that there is a concern about illegal drugs on the streets of the rich countries, there must be concern about guns on the streets of developing countries like Jamaica.
If you are experiencing symptoms of the monkeypox virus, including fever, intense headache, swelling of the lymph nodes, back pain, muscle ache, lack of energy, and/or a rash on the skin, you must self-isolate immediately and call ahead to your health center or doctor before visiting. The virus may enter the body through broken skin, even if not visible, the respiratory tract, or mucous membranes, eyes, nose, or mouth, and has an incubation period of between 5 and 21 days. The spread of monkeypox may occur when a person comes into close contact with an infected animal, direct contact with monkeypox skin lesions or scabs of an infected person, contact with clothing or linen such as bedding or towels used by an infected person, and the coughing or sneezing of an individual with a monkeypox rash. Wear a mask, frequently wash hands, and practice physical distancing as part of the infection prevention and control efforts. For additional information on monkeypox, visit the Ministry of Health and Wellness website at moh.gov.jm or contact the local public health department.
Today marks the start of the annual observation of Senior Citizens Week. To commemorate the occasion, we want to share some useful information on how to engage older persons in our society.
It's often said that children of a nation are its future. Conversely, a nation's progress is chronicled through its senior citizens. Seniors are the backbone and foundation of any successful society. It's on their work and achievements that we are building a brighter future for all our citizens. We want to continue to benefit from their contributions, and that's why we've compiled ways to engage and involve this invaluable segment of our society.
Did you know adults aged 60 years and older in Jamaica are called older adults?
Did you know that in some countries, one can be dubbed an older adult at age 50 or 65, depending on the laws of that country?
Have you heard? The world's population is aging. The World Health Organization has declared that by the year 2050, adults aged 60 years and older will number 2.1 billion.
Here in Jamaica, older adults are the fastest growing segment of the population, moving from 6.7% in 1960 to 12.6% in 2015.
That's why it is very important that we incorporate our seniors in the decision-making process to give advice on social issues as well as benefit from their labor. To capitalize on this effort, the United Nations and the World Health Organization have declared 2020 to 2030 as the decade of healthy aging. This simply means giving older adults the opportunity to be and do things they value throughout their life, while being free of disease and infirmity. In Jamaica, the National Council for Senior Citizens has earmarked the last week in September annually as Senior Citizens Week. The last Sunday in September is observed as Grandparents' Day, and every year on October 1, the world celebrates International Day of Older Persons. We want to incorporate our seniors in all that we do. Here's how you can get involved and be an ally to them.
If you are a caregiver or a family member, remember, incorporate the older adult in the decision making. For example, what to eat or what to wear.
Utilize their help in situations. Remember, they have lived through many hardships. We have had world wars, we have had disease outbreaks. Utilize their help.
Familiarize yourself with issues related to older adults. For example, the terminologies. What is gerontology? Gerontology is the science and comprehensive study of older adults and the issues concerning them. Healthy aging and good health is not just the absence of disease. However, it requires an opportunity for older adults to be active, to enjoy the things that they've always enjoyed doing, break the intergenerational gap. Seniors would love to be able to talk to you and have you listen to them.
Volunteer your time to seniors, be it in an old age home or an infirmary. Carve out some time to spend with an older family member.
Older adults have a sexual appetite. Don't discriminate.
Remember, seniors are adults. Don't treat them like a child. Don't abuse them.
Ask yourself the question, what can I do for an older adult today? Researchers. Studies show that most research do not involve older persons. Community leaders. Be an advocate for the older person in your community today. See to it that they are prepared for the social activities so they can go out and be participatory in what's happening in the community. Young people, what can you do? Just be there, be present, listen to their stories. Teach them the newer technologies that will allow them to communicate and stay in touch with family and friends that are far away. Just be there, be available for our older adults today.
Seniors are our portal to the past, a guide to the future, and most important, a resource in the present. They are an invaluable part of our society. Let's treat them with the respect and love they deserve. For more information on Senior Citizens Week and how you can be a part of an older adult's life, call the National Council for Senior Citizens at 876-906-9277.
Motorists, when driving on the road, here are some simple reminders. Look out for and extend courtesy to all road users. Give plenty of room to pedestrians, especially in wet weather. Drive slowly, no bother wet them up. Slow down when approaching a pedestrian crossing or school, and always be prepared to stop. Remember, a school zone is a 30-kilometer zone. Cut your speed. Drivers of large and slow-moving vehicles should always keep in the far left hand of a dual carriageway. Keep it simple. Drive left and pass right. These are just simple reminders of your road duties. Drive safely.
every month of the year, there has been in our history some incidents of flooding that has taken place in some aspect of the country. And that is something that we have to take note of. Apart from monitoring and giving the forecast, we are also responsible for warnings. And so there are some warnings that we want you to take special heed to if you consider yourself to be vulnerable in any situation. When we speak about a flash flood watch, it means that there is a feature, some kind of weather system that is going to produce enough rainfall that makes it possible for you to get flooding. So it means start to watch, because the water levels are going to be increasing and there is the possibility of the flooding. Now, if we start to see that in some area flooding has started to occur, or if we believe that the flooding has been so close to an area that it is going to happen in that area in a short space of time, we will escalate that flash flood watch and refer to it as a flash flood warning. So when we talk about a flash flood warning, it means not only that the flooding is possible, but the flooding either has already started to happen or is going to happen in a very short space of time because it is very close to that area. So it is important to know what the watch means as opposed to what the warning means. Usually with the warning, we will not only issue a warning, but we will also tell you what kind of actions are important or what you should not do. Like, do not go through flooded waterways because it could pose a risk to your life and to your property. Also, if you live in low-lying or flood-prone areas, if it is an area that is regularly experiencing flooding, a flash flood warning for your area would mean that now is the time to move to higher ground because the flooding has already started or is going to happen very shortly. It is also important for us to know where we live, because sometimes in our messages we might not refer to the actual town, but we will tell you what part of the country the flood watch or the flood warning is relevant to. So if we talk about central parishes, we are referring to Clarendon. We're also talking about Manchester. We're also talking about St. Anne. These are central parishes. So you have to be knowledgeable of where you live so that you know whether the message actually applies to you. The messages that we issue for hurricanes and tropical storms are watches and warnings as well, like the flooding. But in this case, for a tropical storm or a hurricane, when we issue a watch, it means the conditions that are associated with the storm or the hurricane are possible within a certain time frame. If you hear tropical storm or hurricane watch, you could get the impact of that system within a day and a half, 36 hours. If we mention that it is a tropical storm or a hurricane warning, it means that you only have 1 day before that thing can affect you. So we are moving to how quickly you need to make sure that you are prepared by naming it a watch or a warning. So the watch is the first level of the alert that there is something that is likely to affect you. But when we move to a warning, it means now is the time to batten down because you most likely are going to experience that storm or hurricane. We might have a tropical wave, which is the least of them, in that it can still cause a lot of rain and it can still cause flooding and devastation, but it will not have very strong winds associated with it. But then there is the tropical depression that is a little stronger because now you have winds that are moving with it, gusty winds, and it also has a lot of rainfall. Then you have tropical storms, which is a more severe kind of tropical depression because the winds are even stronger. And then if it gets even stronger, it could become a hurricane. So it's important that you have your radio and that your radio is battery controlled, not dependent on electricity, so that you can hear the warning messages that come from the meteorological service. Also bear in mind that if you dial 116, you will be able to hear the latest message coming out of the meteorological service related to any warnings. We cannot stop paying attention. We cannot let down our guard. You have to prepare yourself and stay prepared until we are out of the threat.
Practice good hygiene by washing your hands frequently using soap and water. Here's how you should do it while conserving water. Turn on the tap to wet your hands, then turn off the pipe. Lather your hands and the tap with soap. Turn on the tap and wash your hands, back, front, and in between fingers. Use some of the water to wash off the tap, then turn it off. Dry your hands with disposable hand towels. If you don't have running water, use a hand rub containing 62% or more alcohol. If hand sanitizers are not available, rubbing alcohol, Dettol, white rum, or household bleach will do the trick. And if all else fails, let hand washing and the handling of potable water be a two-person event. Each person will take turns pouring and washing hands with sitting water. Now is a good time to consider installing a tap on your containers to reduce the risk of water contamination. Faucets can be easily attached to drums, buckets, or 5-gallon water bottles. And to ensure that the outside of the containers are clean when recapping, disinfect it with hand rub containing alcohol that's 62% or more. The 5 R's of water conservation are also necessary to practice. Reduce water wastage by investing in water-saving devices. Reuse water at least twice before discarding. Replace leaking pipes, faucets, and other plumbing equipment. Recycle wastewater and use it for gardening, car washing, or cleaning of public spaces. And reclaim water through rainwater harvesting. We all must play our part to ensure there's water to combat the coronavirus and stave off prolonged drought.
And that's how we close out Jamaica Magazine. Be sure to join us tomorrow right here on this station for another program packaged with you in mind. We're available at your convenience online. Visit our website, jis.gov.jm, for this and past shows. And you may also want to catch up on all the positive happenings in Jamaica land we love. On behalf of the entire team here at the JIS, I'm Theodore Henry. Thanks for watching.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.